No one else is.
It's a good time. Get it done.
And I'm not used to it.
Get on with your day.
Multiple times we've looked at, should we adjust the time, and at the end of the day, it's just.
It works.
Consistently get people. And also, if people need to make public comment, they actually have a chance. If we met at 9 in the morning, they couldn't. There's so many evening meetings already.
Yeah. You're trying to understand all the meeting schedules.
So your next steps after here. The DRB would be the big one once we've received any kind of formal submission. You could also the planning commission. They don't usually. They're a little more involved in setting policy and kind of background work. They don't do direct review of development projects.
Adjacent landowners, we are. Yes. I live in the top of North Williston Road, but they do. So adjacent landowners, do they get notified of any public meetings in regards to like those DRB?
They used to do that.
That's a good question. I think that I'm not 100% sure what the apparatus is for that. I'm a little more involved in the conservation world, so I don't do all the
that's
all
fine.
the
We
stuff
can find that out.
But yeah, but I'm pretty sure. And so you can show up with the DRB. You can submit a letter of comment, public comment as well. So those are all steps, and you can also take a meeting with the city planner.
Okay.
Do we have Lynn?
You got Lynn? Yeah. A little hard to hear. Is the mic in the middle?
Oh, great. Mark is here. Where? Came up for air.
Good morning. Yeah.
Public comments. Yeah, I should move.
Lynn, any luck? Any better luck hearing now?
Yes, that's better. Thank you.
All right. Well. Go ahead and kick it off.
Okay, so we'll start our meeting. Call to order at 7:06. We'll start recording. Great. So we will start with public comments. If you have members of the public for comment. Go ahead.
I'll start. Okay. So I'm Liz, and this is in regards to the Habitat and Community development going on Oak Hill Road. So one of my concerns is the wetland and wildlife encroachment, and I'm wondering, has there been any assessments? I'm sure there's been wetland assessments. I think there has been, but what assessments have been done in regards to wildlife encroachment? The highway is a huge strip of encroachment that we've lived with since the early 60s, but there is a corridor there that follows, so I'm concerned about that. And then in regards to like an assessment on wildlife. I'm also concerned, I'm not sure how often this comes up with the conservation, but the noise on the people living, abutting adjacent to that plan. I believe that I really support affordable housing. I think that this is really, there's lots of concerns. And one of my big concerns is the noise. There is such a thing as noise pollution, and noise has been known to disturb child development. And I'm very concerned about housing being squeezed in along that very noisy highway. I grew up in the village. I live on the top of North Williston Road. There's not a moment in the day, 24 hours, 7 days a week that we hear, that we don't hear that highway. So it's pretty significant, and I don't know how many feet away I am, and I can't imagine living adjacent to me. So that's very concerning to me. The other part is, if you travel, we all travel Vermont highways, I'm sure. And if you think about it, there is very limited housing abutting our highway system. And I think that was purposeful. that we have these buffers and we have these zones because we want our state to remain a more rural, open space appearance. And I just am concerned that this could set some sort of precedent or continued growth, which Williston has historically set precedents for different growths. So, yeah, I think I don't know about conservation and noise. It should be part of on your concern because I think it's also limited. I'm also concerned about light pollution. If you talk about that back area there, we don't have lights on the highway. Now we're going to have, housing development in life and what has been hundreds of years. It's a natural.
Liz, am I correct that this is the parcel?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just gonna share that. And I can. Okay. Lynn, how are you hearing us right now?
I'm hearing you okay.
Okay.
As
All right.
you were speaking, but the person just speaking would like kind of come in and out.
Okay, coming in and out. All right, we'll try to.
But I can hear you beautifully right now.
Okay. I'm just trying. Great. Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that. I'll just preface for the members of the Conservation Commission. This is a project that has not come to you yet. I haven't been involved yet as well. My understanding is it's still very early stages, but this parcel, I believe, was purchased by Habitat Humanity or conveyed to Habitat for Humanity. And they're in early stages of exploring a development project. I know they've met with our planning director or one of our senior planners. And so this is the area that public comment is based on right here.
Oh, can I add one more?
Please do.
Really sure. I'm also concerned about the view shed. So if you go to the top of Oak Hill Road where the highway is, the overpass,
Mhm.
I'm just prejudiced. This is one of my favorite views of the Williston Village. You see our church. You see the golf course, which stays green. So I'm very concerned of that view shed being disrupted.
Okay.
So.
As a point of clarification, I will say that, your first question about wetland disturbance and wildlife habitat, when the project does come to this commission, that is one of the first things that we do following, a discretionary approval is that we ask for that. The town actually contracts with a professional assessor, and they will then provide that assessment to us at cost to the proposed developer. That will have a lot of wetland and wildlife type stuff. I don't know that we're actually out there at that stage tying ribbons and doing full
Right.
wetland delineation. That would happen later in the process. But eventually the site plan will have a requirement to delineate and then map all wetland areas. On the point of the noise pollution, noise could potentially fall under our purview for the project itself. I don't think that we have any discretion over the noise impact of the residents who would then be living there. But on your last point, we do assess projects for viewshed qualities. It's part of our review process on every project. And so that would fall under our purview, and we would be viewing that again at the time when an application comes in.
Okay, just to follow up on the wildlife and the wetland assessment, would that include like they've discovered there could be a potential rare bat out in the wetland?
Yeah.
And okay, so that would include that sort of species as well.
And we would get that professionally done. There would be a contract through town, and then that is a fee then provided to the or that the proposer would pay.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Assuming, yeah, so I can provide some clarification. So we have a number of mapped layers that relate to the Conservation Commission review. So
Kind of
for,
tells us like which layers show up, tell us what we need to be assessing.
Can you let us know is this all like public, is this within our webs?
yeah, so this is, you can go on the town website to access this. This is our public, online map. You can click through our zoning layers and our conservation layers and.
Will it say zoning maps, like when you go look in the menus, or do we have to look at that?
You can access this through, you go to the town website.
Yeah.
You go to planning and zoning, or departments is the tab.
Yeah.
And you go to planning and zoning, and then there's either a link on the front page to maps
That one.
or,
Okay, that's right.
I see significant, or sorry, farmland, local importance, scenic view shed. How was that determined? I mean, land use, was that determined by you as a board or?
So that's been determined by various efforts over time in Williston. So there was an effort to map various scenic view sheds. That one is fairly old. I want to say that was done in the early 90s or late 80s. This layer right here that you're seeing, this is
It's no active use,
the
but
significant wildlife habitat
Yeah.
travel corridors map. So whenever that comes up on a parcel, depending on the level of development that's proposed, it'll trigger that
Okay,
habitat assessment that Dave was referring to.
Yeah, so we bring in a professional or ask the applicant to provide a fee that allows us to hire a professional to assess what the impacts would be, because somebody needs to go out and look at it on the ground if it's mapped as being used as a corridor or core habitat.
So I'll go next. So I'm Tess Sweat and I live here. And have for the past 30 whatever years. We all approached everyone, all of us, these homeowners approached Mr. LeFave years ago about buying pieces of that land so that if a development potentially went in, that it wouldn't abut us completely. I don't have any problem with Habitat for Humanity building homes in the village. I think that housing is important. I have a problem with the concern of getting waivers for both the wetland pieces that you mapped out here, that with the Allen Brook, but also with approaching the town about changing the easement for the highway, the setback for the highway, which would allow another entrance here, which would allow them to have two entrances for potentially building 87 homes in this piece of property here. So that's a major concern. As I said, we live here. Animals are there and that's a piece of it, but also from a growth potential from the village. We're concerned about taking those big swaths of land. I understand that once you cross 89, that the development is different than it is on the our side of 89, like our side, their side. Horton, who, but so there's a big concern about building 87 homes and 12 acres of land and taking in the village, taking over every piece of grass in that area. So my understanding was that the Conservation Committee had the opportunity to make a recommendation to the different boards before it proceeded. I don't know. Again, it doesn't sound like they come to you per se for permitting or setbacks or permits.
Yeah.
But we wanted to make our concerns known, thinking that seems out of character for that plot of land.
Yeah, again, we would see it for the first time at discretionary review. And we can and do put a lot of recommendations to the DRB for consideration. Ultimately, that does get passed on to the DRB. So the time where we would have an opportunity to review it, we do not talk to them in advance. I mean, they will occasionally talk to the planning group in advance, right? As you mentioned, they've met with Matt, I think, right?
I believe so.
Yeah,
I've heard of this.
they have.
Yeah, they've submitted the request for the easement for the interstate. That's been submitted to planning. And Emily has sent a memo to the planning commission asking if they want to report as far as the impacts on that.
So that is something that you could certainly go to the planning commission, make a public comment on
But that's
that piece of it.
You don't get that piece.
Yeah, I don't get
Okay.
it. That sounds to
Sorry.
me like that's that's related to the administration of the bylaw itself.
Got it.
So the CC is basically empowered by different elements of the bylaw that say, you know, the Conservation Commission shall review this and make recommendations to the ERB.
Okay.
So,
We thought we'd
Yeah.
start with the environment
Yeah,
people
sure.
first. Before the
Yeah.
project
Right.
gets too big,
Right.
let's start with the earth and go from there.
So we rely on staff to help applicants make sure that they're bringing something forward that has a reasonable chance of success. But we won't actually review the project until there's a specific
Yeah.
proposal.
Yeah.
Because it's just too early.
Right.
There's too many potential ways the project could develop for us to
Yeah.
weigh in until they have a specific proposal.
Well, the funding, I mean, Rebecca, Fallon submitted a proposal for 2027 budget to get 24 units funded by federal funding, which is great. Yes,
Yeah.
wonderful, perfect. That's wonderful. But then is that 3 consecutive years of 24? So we were up to 75 and, you know, staging it. So anyway,
Sorry, did you just say that some of this funding is coming through Representative Allen's office?
it's federal funding
Right, through that she secured?
that she
Yeah.
requested.
You can, in that case, you can also
we
take
can-
your concerns to her office then. too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, again, I don't have a concern about building homes.
Right, oh, it wasn't specifically for this site.
Right.
Oh,
Right.
No,
Yeah,
it
no,
is specifically for the
right.
site, but building 87 homes is. Oh, so that's,
yeah,
Yeah.
that does sound like,
I mean, you look at,
like that likely wouldn't happen, I would guess, but I can't.
Right,
comment. I
but-
would guess that.
I would be surprised to see that many homes able to be put on the parcel, but we'll see.
yeah,
like I say, you look at the footprint of, you know, the relatively newly established Creek's Edge, just a little bit north of there. I mean, the footprint for Creek's Edge is much larger than here. And I mean, there's only 38 units in there, and that falls outside of the, you know, Williston Historic Village zoning footprint, so if they're only putting 38 units in there. Like
Yeah.
I said, what makes them believe they can put 87 in a much smaller footprint?
A lot of times when somebody buys a parcel, especially in this area, they do a calculation based on the acreage and how many units could we put. But then it whittles down from there based on other restrictions and limitations, so.
okay,
Great.
that's our plea to you.
Yeah.
Slide it fixed.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, well, thanks everyone for coming this morning. Thanks for your civic engagement.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. For some of the stuff.
And I
Yeah.
support the other project. With the town buying the land on the other side, or securing the land on the other side. So that's my public comment on that.
Thank you.
Great,
All right.
well, I'm sure we'll be seeing you again.
Okay, thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
Thanks, President. Nice day.
Thank you.
Good.
We can readjust with seating if we.
Yeah.
Be a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
Eric?
I am Miss Days.
When she just said, I support town buying the land on the other side, what was she referring to?
That's a reference to the Marcotte project.
Oh. Let's see.
Right, and we are joined by John this morning. I got, the agenda's gonna be a little shuffled up, John. I'm guessing you are here to sit in and participate on the debrief from the site visit.
Yeah, I'm just curious.
Yeah, absolutely. So I can, yeah,
We didn't expect such a rush this morning.
let me know how you wanna shuffle things
Can we
around.
check and see if Kim ever joined?
She
Haven't texted.
hasn't texted, no, Kim's not done yet.
Okay.
If you can continue whatever your thing is, I'm just here to
Yeah,
make sure I
all
was here,
good.
just want to get here, that's all.
Yeah, appreciate it.
So that was more substantial public comments than we usually allow time for, so we'll try to get to what we can get to. Let's do a quick review of the minutes from prior week meeting. I will make a quick comment in my review that on the item invasive species action plan under paragraph 5, I did not see a next steps identified in the minutes, and I'm pretty sure we talked about what do we do next with the plan. And I was, that's more of an appeal to all of us. I do not remember what we agreed to or recommended as next steps for that plan. You remember, Laura?
I don't remember.
Okay.
This was my recollection, is that I think Eric, maybe a couple other people, maybe one or two other people wanted a chance to take a look at it closer. I could be misremembering that, but I simply put that as commissioners will view the draft and continue discussion at a
Okay.
future meeting prior to approval.
Okay, that seemed pretty soft and loose. I wasn't sure if that was.
Well,
what we-
I think it did end a little.
Okay.
Let's just look at
So
it.
we like
I
reviewed it.
just got that to Eric, so.
Okay,
Okay, okay, great, yeah,
Does that
I think I had said, should we vote on this, and we decided. We're very close, but we wanted to give them, read it more closely.
yeah.
And you didn't feel like you were held up from making progress in the meantime, because it wasn't a change from what you've been trying to do. Excellent.
I'm sending myself a reminder to look at.
Cool.
Any
It's not a long
additional, any additional comments or amendments to the agenda?
I just had one and,
Oh, for the minutes, you mean?
yeah. And that was that,
And,
I think it said that, Lynn and Reed
yeah, it should
presented.
say Laura,
It just,
Yeah.
only
should say Laura, Reed and Lynn on the first.
because
one.
I'm on that committee.
Laura,
For,
Yeah, it should say.
I'm sorry,
Yep.
that's right. Wow.
Laura, Reed and Lynn, foolish. That was mine too.
It's okay.
Thank you, Lauren.
Yeah, that was the only comment I had.
Been instrumental in that. How could I be, Jeff?
I know you're just having AI do these.
I do mine, that's great.
I have AI do a first pass.
You really?
Yeah. Well, at this point, I've trained it on my style, so I give the transcript and my previous minutes to,
In the style.
Yeah,
format.
and then it gives me a first pass.
Yeah.
I go through there and edit it, so I do sometimes miss things that way.
Yeah, no worries.
That it helps then.
It helps some. I'm always surprised at the amount of time I still put into them anyways, because the AI misses things and
Yeah.
doesn't characterize some things correctly and kind of. But it is helpful to get the structure.
Okay, so let's get a motion to approve the minutes as Laura just amended.
I'll move to approve as amended.
Thank you, Reed.
I'll second Reed's motion.
Thank you, Eric. All in favor? Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Approved, minutes are approved as amended. Thank you very much. And we will move on to the next topic of the agenda. Which is a conservation planner update on the boardwalk, I think.
Yeah, so I'll be pretty brief. First note, Isaac, Trail Steward is doing a great job, elevating the flooded boardwalk that was out at that confluence of streams on the Allenbrook Nature Trail. It was underwater for, a big chunk of the spring. That beaver dam, is not being maintained right now. I think the beaver moved on after early spring. So the water level has dropped quite a bit, but it's presented a good opportunity for Isaac Bill to go in there and lay a better foundation underneath the puncheons, so they're elevated to the same level as the bridge. So when that does get built back up again, or when the rains fill that basin up a little more, it should no longer be floating. So that is, yeah, that's a really nice fix to the trail system there. And then the big news is the town has accepted a bid for the
Very exciting.
stream for the stream stabilization and excavation services.
That should be a headline, the observer next week.
Yeah, I'm still like, I don't wanna get out of myself.
You should not.
So many things that
No.
like we could go
Don't get
that
ahead
way.
of yourself.
We ended up with, at the end of permitting, still a pretty narrow window, August 15th to October 1st, and it's a lot to try to get things done in that window.
Yeah.
But we now have a shot. We have to do some finagling on the staff side to make sure we have the funds, in addition to being able to pay for a contractor. We need to get a little bit of construction oversight services from the engineering company. And then, of course, we'll still have to pay for the redecking portion of the work. So there's still a lot to coordinate, but for the first time, there's a narrow path, a narrow glide path that we could make this thing happen before the end of the year if everything comes together. If everything doesn't come together, the hope is that we can still do the stream stabilization piece. As you know, every month, every season that we don't do that, the erosion gets a little bit worse. The cost is going to go up, and it continues to be infrastructure that the town residents can't use. So that's a big update. It's an exciting update. I'm gonna get too far ahead of myself, but we've got an opportunity, and it's gonna be a big focus of the next 2 months to try to make sure that happens.
Yeah, lining up all of those different things
Yeah,
into what is effectively a 6-week window.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a lot. Good luck.
Okay,
Godspeed.
and I'll leave the update there.
Okay, great, thanks, Dave. Next item on the agenda, the commission had a very delightful site visit to John Marcotte property this week.
Sorry, I was not able to make it.
Yeah, it works. Well, we understood you had some pressing matters. We'll talk after, once the meeting's closed. So I wanted to just have an opportunity to debrief at the end of our walk. I also told John this was on the agenda, invited him here to listen in any way if he would like. So John is here in attendance. And I guess I would just start by saying we spent the better part of an early evening doing a pretty substantial loop hike. We at one point crossed over into the Lake Iroquois district, and we were within earshot of the lake goers. You know, it sounded like the full playground was in effect on a warm summer evening. So saw some really impressive and amazing trees, really all over the property, but especially down in that zone. And yeah, it was a pretty impressive and substantial amount of wild forest. And my sort of, and I know I commented to Dave at one point, you know, I can't remember taking a walk in Williston for such a long period of time without seeing another house on any of the peripheries. And that sort of stood out to me as being pretty remarkable. The last thing I would just note is that the trails that we were all on appeared to be mostly, you know, old logging roads or possibly even class 4 roads, you know, old farm roads from way back in the day. So it seems like there's a pretty level grade. And that was my sort of takeaway. Commissioners, I would invite you to share any other thoughts you might have.
Yeah, I thought I was impressed with how well the trail was maintained, probably a combination of John's work mowing his section, but also that he has neighbors who are mountain bikers and fat bikers in the winter who actually use the trails and groom the trails that are back there, and they feed right into the Lake Iroquois trails. And I can see why people get lost. And end up at God's house.
Yeah, especially I would say in the sort of non-summer season where there's sort of like a natural path or corridor where you really want to stick to that trail and not go too far up. But like in the fall when things kind of settle down a little bit and things open up, I could easily see how you could just, you know, and it's drier, obviously. Yeah. Yeah.
I was,
No, go ahead, Lynn.
Go ahead, Lynn.
yeah, I was just gonna say, I was really impressed with the plant communities. There are several different areas of, with different plant communities. And there were a few invasives, but not big swaths of invasives. So like one here, one there, that could be, you know, fairly easily managed.
Yeah, thank you. Good point. And Dave was pointing out, what was that plant that was the signifier of mineral enrichment? You noticed?
Cohosh.
Cohosh. That was a new one for me, but it was
it rocks, is that what you're saying? Mineral?
high nutrient.
Calcium enrichment, as we got lower in the slope towards, the side, started to see certain plants that are. In ecological parlance, enrichment indicators, which usually means,
Mhm.
higher nutrient, high availability in soils.
And then
Oftentimes tied to calcium availability.
And it was around that area too that we started seeing some of the really big trees really growing up.
Mhm.
And that could be a sign of, former lake levels or, who knows, but, Yeah, it was, go ahead, Reed.
Yeah, couple things I noticed. One is, we pretty much stayed in like the central third of the parcel, which is hard to describe because it's on a diagonal, but we didn't really get into the easternmost, portion, which from the HDA sounds like maybe the most ecologically sensitive areas and perhaps the areas where the most mature trees are. So I noticed that what we were walking through was mostly like maybe 70, 80-year-old trees, but not much beyond that. So I was curious, one thing I was left curious about was what that easternmost portion looks like.
Sure.
And then, the large trees that we saw at the southernmost extent seemed to start right at that borderline between the Lake Iroquois district and the Marcotte parcel. But that connection is pretty sweet if it is functional. I can understand the pain points of people right now just taking off thinking they're still on parkland and getting lost. And then finally, up at the north of the end, a few of us went over, Lynn and Dave Barney and I stopped over on Beartown Lane to take a look at where that potential entry point could be. And we think we roughly were able to locate it with a combination of different maps. And we do see some wetland flagging in there, so we can see that somebody's been in there looking around, and it seems as though it's like maybe suitable. There's some pull-off space, some extra width to that portion of the Beartown Lane where it seemed like you could probably park 3-4 cars along the edge, and people could still get by easily. And you can kind of see through where it might go, but it did drop off significantly from the road down into the forest there, and it looked like there was potentially some wet areas. So that's which we know that kind of northeastern portion has some wet areas. So it was hard to tell without getting in there and actually walking to see what the soil was like and stuff. But just wanted to share, we think we found the location. We're able to visually look in from there.
All right, yeah, I was gonna ask what you guys found there, so, a small parking area, small.
Yeah, slightly wider than the rest of it, portion of the road right in that spot.
Yeah, the lower portion of Beartown Lane is a public road, which is why that right of way that connects to it is important. And on some roads, they can be quite narrow, such that parking is effectively not really an option. But in this case, there is we thought capacity for a pull off. We pulled off there and got out to took a look around, and I would think that you could probably have four cars in a row fairly easily without disturbing the neighbors on that public shoulder, which could provide limited access and in a reasonable capacity.
You almost couldn't see anybody else's vehicles, driveways, houses from where we pulled off. You could just see the tip of the truck in that 009 parcel.
It's also very lush forest.
It is, yes.
Conditions right now,
Yeah.
but if we were there in the fall when this.
Yeah.
It might be.
But just to share that it's not like you'd be parking right next to somebody's
Oh,
driveway, like,
yeah.
it was some separation there.
Thank you. One of the things that we talked about in previous meetings was the condition of excuse me. Gotta shake the morning now. The condition of the trails and whether or not, we felt like there would be a lot of trail work required on this property. So, I mean, I think we can all probably agree that like the logging roads that we were using to hike on were fairly well and fairly well established and more or less intact. But, you know, we should discuss that if we think that is what the future of, you know, trails in that parcel would look like.
Yeah, I do think that's from a town staff perspective. Once the Market subdivision is in, there will be a question of. Can we continue to maintain those trails as, you know, what's it? Double track, if you
Yeah,
will, right,
right.
as
Yeah.
wide trails that can be brush hogged. Or would we, mainly in regards to like, could we get equipment in, would it be efficient, who would operate that equipment, et cetera? So it might be that we need to maintain, a skinnier network of more just like primitive paths, hiking trails or mountain bike trails. Depending on what's deemed appropriate there, and in response to that, your comment about kind of trail investment. Yeah, I think putting in the potential for putting in that trail from Beartown Lane. That would be a brand new trail that I think that would be a solid investment. I think maintaining the existing trail system would be not as challenging, but when we walk the lower portion that could potentially provide access to Lake Erie Recreation District. And as John kind of described in spring, it's probably
Very wet.
flooding with water or a little bit of stream action, so. That's something that would need to be explored in terms of remediation or rerouting an access trail that can be a little more sustainable. Throughout seasons.
Is this, we're gonna talk about Mud Pond next, but is this parcel large enough that it would require its own management plan?
It would definitely require a management plan. I mean, like all of our conserved areas, if the town were to purchase it and conserve it, we'd want to put together a management plan. I think, are you talking about in terms of like a third party that could assist with that?
I don't know, but
Yeah.
but as like a point of example, like our last meeting. The last item on our agenda, I don't believe that parcel has a management plan, but that is town-owned land.
Which parcel?
The one next to Hurricane Lane.
The Ben Gubitz.
Oh, yes, yeah, we'll talk about, right, that doesn't have a management plan. No, and that's not to say that
Yes.
the town doesn't own lands that don't have a management plan
Yeah,
yet,
it's
but
established park for
Yeah.
conservation.
Right.
yeah, it's a good point, right?
Mhm.
So
So-
we would be talking about managing this essentially as a park of sorts, which would be requiring of a management plan. And so the trail network, spring mitigation, invasive mitigation, all of that would have to be identified in the.
Yeah.
And this is getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, but, there are classes at UVM that could be tapped to at least get a good head start on that.
Yeah,
So it's-
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, Reed.
Thinking about the trails specifically. I mean, one of the things that I was commenting when we were on Beartown Lane is, these things can be tricky because, we have to remember that there are existing users of the trails and they're used to, self-serve, figure out how you want to use the trail, where you want the trail to go, whether you want to improve something or not improve something. And so that's just something we have to be aware of is we would need to juggle, even if we could maintain the loop that we walked pretty easily. We didn't get a chance to see kind of what the condition and also potential ecological impacts are of the trails that run further to the east.
Yeah.
And that's where most of my concern would be in terms of, just because something is fun to bike on doesn't mean that we might decide that it's the right place for bikes to be traveling. So we have to kind of tread the needle if we were to do this on, how much can you keep things open? While balancing, now maybe this is not long-term where we want existing bikes and or increased bike usership. But it is really cool that people use it to bike up to Mud Pond Country Park because that's that just kind of increases the value of using Mud Pond Country Park. If people can bike to it and back to it, I know that living here in the village, it's a huge benefit to be able to bike up to Catamount and not have to drive, load your bikes, unload your bikes. But it kind of adds an element of convenience and enjoyment to be able to connect between these places.
Yeah, Laura.
Also, Fellowship is a really good partner and they're very responsible. I mean, they do, I think they manage their trails, thinking about the ecology and sustainability of the area. And which is great because I think it's hard to find money from the town to keep trails up on our lands that we do have.
We could certainly look into, I mean, that would be the kind of thing I think we'd explore in management planning.
Yeah.
We could certainly look to third-party assistance, the first step is, kind of figuring out what the sense for a long-term trail network. I will say that even with partners like Fellowship and Catamount, who've been great partners in stewarding some of our trail networks, those organizations are increasingly kind of tapped to capacity.
Yeah,
And struggling with changes
Membership.
in their business models, which really have been driven by volunteer support and membership purchases, which has been declining over time. As people have become more accepting or more used to mountain biking, and there seems to be a shift in kind of assumption that these trails should be provided for mountain biking use, and memberships seem to be dropping off in terms of people purchasing those to directly support these organizations. So it would be an open question of whether an organization would have capacity to expand, but it's certainly something we could look into.
Yeah. I would also say that it would require extensive trail design because Fellowship doesn't tend to use double track trails as a primary, mountain bike trail. So they would only, like, similar to how Catamount sort of uses its carriage paths as like access points for the actual mountain bike trails. I would imagine that they would have to look at it similarly, like, so in other words, the existing trail network to me doesn't sort of signify that it's ready for mountain bike use in any way. Not in the sort of modern form of mountain biking, but we clearly saw tire tracks, whether it's a bike or an e-bike or whatever, it didn't look like motocross style tires.
Right.
It looked like, in my view, it looked like an e-bike that people were probably just using the shortcut down to the lake consistently.
Yeah, and that'll be something to talk about, because there's the real difference is the impacts are different when you have a couple of neighbors using trails versus
Exactly.
public access,
Right.
where the volume of use can be multiplied multiple times.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
I could just make a couple of quick comments
please go.
for clarity. I mean, I have never been from the corner of our property down to Mud Pond. I know some mountain bikes, I think a very limited amount. There is some very unofficial trail, probably crossing other people's private property. I don't know how much of a fan of it they are. So I just want to make no insinuation that could just be connected. I think there'd be a lot of challenges potentially, but it's an old snow machine trail from probably 20+ years ago. Like I say, don't make any comments as to how viable it is. The other thing is the current users of the property, the vast majority are walking, frequently with their dogs. Very common. Where we parked cars the other day, 3 weeks ago roughly, I was there and a couple of ladies walked out with a couple of dogs, really pleasant ladies, and they had come from Lake Iroquois. And they say, we're still all on public property, right? And I says, now you're actually off by quite a bit. And I just explained the whole thing. I said, you're welcome. I said, that's not a problem. I explained where we were, because they really had no clue. You know, you're standing where our cars were parked. You can't see South Road or anything, so you don't know. Then the only disturbing issue was after they left, you know, I walked back that direction out of the woods, and they had left one of their little green trophy bags, you know, where you guys had parked your car. It's kind of like, I still don't understand this concept of collecting your dog's residue, putting it in a plastic bag, albeit it's decomposable sometime. Just like, it's just leave it on the side, you know, don't leave the plastic bag. But I mean, the point I was trying to make is, it's a vast amount of people are walking.
Mhm.
The mountain biking is, I have one neighbor on our road, we have one neighbor across South Road. They're prolific mountain bikers. When it's appropriate, they
Yeah.
stay away in the spring and stuff like that.
Yeah, you can tell it's
The
not.
walking
seriously
public, I think, is a huge component of future usage, just for whatever that's worth.
Mhm.
All right, thank you. Any further comments on this?
I'll just say that I thought, they're likely, at least from what I saw, I thought there were likely a significant amount of trees, probably older than 90 years.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, especially as we got down towards this bottom, the sections that weren't logged as recently. But because of that mosaic of, you know, there have been some logging in the last 20 years and other places that have been left. Yeah, I think it contributed to that overall kind of habitat diversity. So from what I saw, there's really nice ecological diversity there, and that kind of fit with the habitat disturbance supplement that we looked at as well.
Yeah, it did feel like it was changing every 30 or 60 seconds of walking, or like if we're
Oh, for
in a
sure.
new space with new types of community.
And bugs, different bugs on every business feed. I got a big old fly well right on my pink beach. And it happened right before we got to the cars on that big field. But I'm happy to say that a glass of Chenin Blanc cleared it right up. It just went away.
Amazing how that works.
Amazing. You either forget about it or it helps, you know.
Thanks for the guided tour, John.
Yeah, thank you so
Yeah,
much.
thank
John.
you so
It
much.
was really, really nice property and a nice way to spend the day.
Yeah, well, anybody would be welcome to look at a couple of those areas you were inquiring about.
It's okay to stop by and go for a walk.
Yeah, if you want to stop over, I mean, it's open to the public, so I don't advertise that,
Yeah,
but.
yeah.
Yeah.
If you hang out very, very long, you're gonna meet other people. They come from all over.
Cool.
So it's kind of neat.
You're really
That's
kind
very
to open up
generous.
your land like that, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, I definitely noted that there were no trespassing, public, you know, private property signs that are usually,
Now, I
you know.
tried putting up some no hunting signs in the fall recently. Those get torn down, not recently, it's been quite a while now. They don't last, so
Really?
it's.
That's
Amazing.
I'm just trying for a safety zone. We've had people pop out of the woods into my backyard and say, what are you doing here? Like, well, we live here. Well, we didn't know there's any houses here. I know, that's kind of concerning when you're carrying your rifle to shoot deer.
Yeah,
Well, I know
I'm
where the
not
houses
opposed to
are.
hunting, mind you.
Yeah.
I'm opposed to them shooting in my direction and not realizing there's a house. You know, the other side of those few trees they're shooting through. So.
yeah,
That's.
that is nuts, right?
So yeah, I think Lynn, I don't know if you can still hear us. I just I noticed that you're an attendee again, so I think you might have maybe lost connection or rejoined. So I'm promoting you to panelist again.
Doesn't seem to be
Hopefully
working though.
that helps.
She has to accept it on her end, I think.
Let's see, anything's in the chat. Nope.
Okay.
Okay, well, I guess, I wanna see if Lynn, if we can resolve the technical issue, we can come back to it, but I do think we should move on. To the Mud Pond, Country Park. So, thank you, John.
We'll let you
Thank you.
continue.
All right.
Thank you for
Thank you.
your interest. Have a
Yeah.
great
Yeah,
day.
thanks,
Appreciate
John.
it.
Thank you, John.
All right, so Mud Pond Country Park, we have a link in the agenda to the current webpage. I did not spend a ton of time reviewing the management plan, just sort of noted that the last time it was approved by this commission was 2017. I think I'm remembering that correctly. And so it's up for renewal. And I guess I wanted to sort of kick it over to Dave and say, you flagged this for our awareness. What is your plan? What do you need from us? And what should we talk about? We have a pretty good amount of time on the agenda, but we will be joined at 8:15 to talk about the Hurricane Lane parcel.
Yeah, so thanks. Yeah, so the main thing I wanted to do was just talk a little bit about process with you all. There are a lot of ways you can go about working on a management plan, from extremely comprehensive and involved to very surface level. Let's skim it over and see if we want to change anything and good to go. So within that realm, I don't want to necessarily reinvent the wheel. I want to support this process and make sure that we're getting a robust update that will kind of make this plan work for the next 10 years. But I also want to just hear about your experience and your desires. Many of you have been here long enough that you've worked on these before in terms of updating past plans. So my initial thoughts are, there's sort of two things. One is looking back at what's the sort of ecological and inventory work that's been done in a parcel, and is it sufficient? Is it old enough that it should be updated? That kind of thing. So I think we should be talking about if we think any work is due out there, and then incorporating that as an action to the management plan. We have an ecological assessment that was done by a UVM student at some point in the past. I can't remember the date. There was a forest inventory and assessment, and I think may also have been a UVM forestry class. And then we have the management plan that references those two. The other component that I wanted to kind of flag right away is, what degree of public engagement do you feel is appropriate or useful when going about these plans? And there also you have a wide spectrum, from having just a public listening session to sending out a link to submit comments, all the way to creating a survey to send out to the community. So there's different ways you can get information from the public if you feel like that is a useful step. And I think that can often be helpful in a management plan update. So that's where I kind of wanted to start and just get any thoughts you have about process for this, and kind of how detailed and thorough you think this could or should be. And then we're already halfway through the season, so then my next task will be just to kind of think about sequence a little bit and how I can support us getting to the finish line by the end of the year.
Let's start with any recollections from current commissioners from 10 years ago. Does anyone remember or recall issues from?
I wasn't here.
No?
So it would be Eric, and Eric's spinning his chair. I joined shortly after this one was adopted.
Yeah.
I was gonna make a comment about stepping back even further, just to talk about management plans in general. And something I think, so traditionally, and by traditionally, I mean back in the Melinda days, because to me, that's true. It's been a couple of quick changes since then, but back in the old days when Melinda was with us for a number of years in a row, she basically managed a schedule and brought them to us and said, in this portion of the year, we need to cover this one, in this portion of the year, we need to cover these two. And then we haven't had that natural cadence, so I think we're a little behind on reviewing our management plans in general, is my sense. There also was kind of a busier period in terms of development reviews for a while as well. With that in mind, one of the things I've been thinking about is there's the review of the management plans, and there's also the implementation and the monitoring of the things in the management plans. So we saw with the Lion parcel or the Town Hall Meadow management plan, as well as I noticed in this one, there were less so in this one. There were some action items or suggestions in the management plan of what should be happening over the ensuing 4, 5, 6 years. And I don't think that I can remember ever pulled that up unless somebody asked us about it or Fellowship of the Wheel was coming to say, hey, we're thinking about doing this, like they wanted to add the quiet connector and stuff project, and so that prompted us to look at some things and make sure it was aligned with the plan, but to actually revisit intentionally the different action items has not been happening. So my larger suggestion was gonna be, I felt like management plans, it seemed to me that some of the things we need are an inventory of management plans and a schedule for reviewing them. And either like renewing them or modifying them. And then within the management plans where there are action items, we need a schedule that has all the action items from all the management plans, so that as we're scheduling meetings, the chair and staff can reference that and say, are there any action items from our management plans that we're entering that year where they're supposed to be addressed, and then what meetings are we gonna get those on agendas, so that we don't get like 2 years later and go, we didn't do that thing that we said we were gonna do. So those were some procedural things that I thought might help. And then as far as the mud pond one specifically, I read it as well as the page here, and certainly there's things that are out of date, but it seemed as though it probably wouldn't be efficient for us in a meeting to review it. And in the past, it's been hard for us to, between meetings, have like a document and all go in and add our comments. Even if like 3/4 of us do, if 1/4 don't get to it, then we feel like we can't move forward until everybody had a chance to look. So my suggestion was gonna be, for something like this, I would want to get like 2 people to sit down and read it together and flag sections that, like green, yellow, red, this section probably doesn't even need to be looked at. This is something that needs updating, or this is something that potentially needs to be significantly discussed by the commission. So those are my suggestions on process.
All right, thanks, Reed.
Yeah, and I think, when we updated this one specifically, it was as kind of, as Reed was saying, it was, same situation that we're sort of in now, where it had been a long time since the Conservation Commission had looked at any of the management plans. And so I think this one was a big lift, because we were looking at a management plan that was quite old at that point, for at least for Wet Pond, if not some of those two.
Okay.
But I was kind of thinking the same thing as Reed, where I think it would be good for the Conservation Commission to have like an annual review of these management plans for the different parks, just to keep it somewhat in the forefront of our minds in terms of implementation. What we can do across all of the different parks in terms of checking off boxes for these management plans. Otherwise, I think that would be worth just not, if we're not gonna be able to if we're not gonna be able to implement things in the plans, then keep that in mind. So we're like reviewing this one, like, okay, it's great to have all this checklist, but right, we don't even have a Sharpie to check any boxes off. Let alone money to do boxes.
As a point of clarification, how many management plans does the town have that would fall under our purview?
So I'd say, we probably have about 6 or 7, so we do have an inventory of management plans, and they are on a review schedule. That schedule was set up to be roughly 1 a year. And this is on schedule for 2026. That's right, why it's coming here. Yeah, we've talked in this space about the need for an annual review, more frequent review of management plans for that purpose and implementation, and I absolutely agree that is something that is important to get back on top of. I would say for this conversation, I think it'd be helpful to separate those a little bit, with a caveat that I think Eric's comment about considering capacity is important in in coming up with a management plan, but right now. I think we can separate that space a little bit, and just focusing on. What it means to update this management plan now. It's scheduled for 2026. It's hit its 10-year mark or thereof, and it's ready to be updated. So we can go about that in different ways. We can, the process that Reed was kind of sketching out would be to kind of kick it to a subcommittee to just do a reading of the existing plan. And then bring individual pieces back to the committee. We can absolutely do something like that. Staff can assist. I don't think you necessarily have to look back all the way to 10 years, when this specific management plan was redone, but more recently. You may have reviewed, looked at other management plans. I'm not sure what exactly you did there. Other things that can happen, as I mentioned, having a public input process, restructuring, looking at kind of how this plan compares with other plans, if there's a more recent plan that is a better template. This is restructuring, if that feels like something that would be important. But as I said before, I also want this to be efficient because there's a lot on your plates. So
I think, just to interrupt for a second, I think that was a very good point you just made, and I don't recall which was the most recent or the last management plan that we looked at, but I think that would be a good reference point. If we could have get a link to that plan as well, because that one presumably would reflect more present day issues and concerns that we could keep in mind as we look at this updating this plan.
Yeah, as far as public input, we haven't done that before. I mean, this is an open meeting. If people are interested, they can come, right? So.
That's what the library said.
I know.
Well, yeah, I feel, I feel in the middle, I feel like, for instance, I think there's some simple things we could do. Like if we have decided that we're gonna be meeting to discuss the management plan, we could put a QR code up at the entrance. I don't know how much service there is there at the entrance to my contract work, but put a QR code that says, did you know that we're currently updating the management plan? Canvas code to check the schedule of meetings. That way it gets, I think a lot of people who frequent it might be people who would want to do that, and then I know that in general, as somebody who bucks town property, at times it can be confusing. If you're not getting notice, things are happening on adjacent parcels.
Yeah, that's a good thing. That's a good point. I think that Bernie, maybe not.
Hey, Bernie,
Hi there.
how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Yeah, at least a sign. At the entrance of the park.
Check the town website, we're actively updating the management plan, something like that. There are things that take this much effort, but make sure that it accesses lots of people. And then you have more intensive things like doing a mailing to all the landowners that bought the park, and that just takes a little bit more effort and gets to fewer people maybe than the users. So anyway, I think at least trying to make the public aware that we're talking about it. If we rely on people to check our meeting agenda to learn that we are working on the management plan, it's not gonna work. But if we put in front porch forum and posting at the park entrance, I feel like that's at least, an attempt to make people informed that we're updating it and to know how to reach out if they have suggestions or concerns.
I want to be mindful of both our efficiency for this agenda topic, and I agree with Dave about not feeling like we need to reinvent the whole wheel just because a management plan is coming up for review. It's been flagged, so I feel at least confident that we can stay on the town's agenda, get the job done. I like the suggestion of sort of taking a look at a more recent management plan to see if, there are any improvements that can be made. I wanted to get, I can count on maybe a half dozen agenda topics over the years that I've been involved in this commission where Mud Pond has been part of it. Like one of them most recently was a boardwalk or elevated pathway was like unusable and dangerous for the public. Another was the sort of debrief from the Fellowship of the Wheel about the quiet connector. Others, we've had we had recently a Boy Scout doing a Eagle Scout project there. It seems like in my mind, you're one of two users of Mud Pond. You're either using the mountain bike trails, or you're more active in that sort of duck and like lake ecological zone. And like that's to me, like I haven't even been to that part of the park, full candor. Only use the mountain bike.
Have its own management plan separate, so.
Yeah.
This is just the biking side.
Okay, see, so like that's an important point. Yeah, it's like that is surprising to me, quite honestly, because I thought, so like, are those two separate management plans?
Yeah,
They are.
Two management plans.
That is it, okay.
Yes, it was determined that the potentially appropriate uses and restrictions, as well as the ecological assessment showed that they were just so different that it didn't make sense to have one management.
Yeah, so, okay. Did we lose Lynn?
We did lose Lanash. I'm not sure what happened.
Right. Okay, so like that's an important clarification. So we're just talking about the mountain bike area. Definitely, gets a lot of use, public input. But do you think it would be helpful to set a schedule for this? So like when is the deadlines?
Effectively, end of the year, we
Okay.
didn't set a month deadline. 2026 is the recommendation. I think that's the 10-year mark. But also just on the calendar that was set years ago was to try to set up these plans in a way that we're only doing 1 year, so it's not overburdensome. I think ultimately the select board is gonna sign up on the update. That shouldn't be a burdensome step because they are relying on you to really do that work and advise them. But there is that procedural step. Looking at some of these, I have seen that happen in the following year. So the plan may have been drafted in October 26th, and it wasn't adopted by the select board till March 27 because that's how long
Yeah,
it's
on the
to get on the agenda, that kind of thing. So there's not really an issue there. When it comes to a management plan, it's not like there's a risk if the plan lapses longer than 10 years, then you have to close the park. There's no danger like that. But
It does make it harder for us to make decisions if concerns are raised by a landowner or user, or we want to consider a policy change. If we haven't adopted the new plan, it makes it a little bit trickier.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I think it'd be nice to get into the substance of the plan. In a future meeting.
Great.
Coming up, whether or not we want to do that as like a guided tour through the plan or led by staff, or I feel like we've got a lot of subcommittees going right now.
Yeah.
I'm hesitant to say like, sure, let's have another one. I don't know,
I think that'd be a good first step. I think I can provide kind of a tour of it with flags in the areas that I think are more substantive for discussion.
okay.
And then you can kind of make a decision on from there. Do you want to punt some things to subcommittees? And
Okay.
we can take a look simultaneously at do we have any more recent plans that might be a useful structure to look at?
So then let's go with that approach. I like the idea of getting a staff guided tour. That makes a lot of sense to me. I also sort of, as I was skimming through it last night, thinking like, wow, this looks to me like a staff kind of project, but with our input. Yeah. Okay, well, great, then that'll be that, and then we'll revisit at a future meeting. For what it's worth, I like the idea of having some kind of sign up at the parking lot.
Did you
letting people know.
Yeah, management plan.
Why not, Cause if you did it on the other side of the road where the bikes kind of cross, no one's gonna stop there. No one ever, it's bike right across. But at the parking lot, people might actually see it. Okay, great. We are right on time, and we've got some guests. We've got a discussion well, I guess it's a proposal. That was brought to us by members of the public and allow them to introduce themselves. Here,
Well, I would say this is a soft proposal, I would say.
Okay.
This is I think probably more of a discussion of how we all might be able to work together on such a proposal. But my name is Ben Gubitz. I've been a resident of Williston for the last 5 years. I currently serve as the vice president of campaigns for an organization called Protect Our Winters. I have two young kiddos here in the area and who go to WCS just down the street. And really grateful for the time and appreciate you all carving us into the schedule and having an open mind for the discussion. So nice to meet you all. And I would love to actually, because I think it's mostly new faces in the room for me as well. And I would love, if it's okay to do a quick intro of you all as well.
And hey, I'm Evan Morrison. I live in Williston as well.
We're neighbors.
We're neighbors. I also have two kids, not at WCS yet, they're a little younger. And yeah, we're just excited to talk about this area that we live right next to, that we've been kind of eyeing as a great resource for the town. So just wanted to have a discussion about it.
All right, should we go around this?
yeah,
way?
let's
Okay.
go around.
Laura, I'm on the Conservation Commission and I introduced this to the Conservation Commission, I think over a year ago, because we had a nice conversation at Green Up Day.
Thanks,
Yes.
Laura. Thanks, Laura.
Yeah. Dave Westman, currently chair of the commission and also a mountain biker. Haven't ever been in this area, so interested to hear what you guys have to say.
Hi, Eric Howe. I've been a Wilson resident for approaching 20-ish years now, on the Conservation Commission for about 17 or 18.
Oh, wow.
Reed Carr. Been on the commission for about 9 years and lifelong Wilson resident other than a hiatus away. And I also have a kid that turned WCS. So
Oh, fun.
I'm Dave Maroney. I'm the staff conservation planner for the town, and also a Williston resident. And
I'm Bernie Como, Williston resident for 30 years. And I live to the adjoining property you're talking about
Oh, great. Where are you?
on Bradley Lane.
In Bradley. Okay, cool. All right, so you're over on the south side of us.
Yeah, so, yeah, my property would be the one butting up against the true property
Oh, okay, so that's, so are
on the,
you this
on
one?
the western side. Yes,
That's yours?
yes.
Okay. Oh, cool.
They have a wonderful sugar shack that
Yeah.
Bernie made from the trees on his property.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, well, it's great to meet you.
Thank you.
Well, again, we really appreciate you all taking the time and working us into the calendar here. I know that Evan had discussed this idea with folks on the committee. Was that maybe four or 5 years ago or so?
Yeah,
5.5 years,
first-
yeah.
Yeah, with Melinda here, yes.
so I can make a couple of quick comments on, just to kick things off. So
Yeah,
the town owns about a 50-acre parcel of land, sometimes referred to as the Burnett parcel. And that's the parcel that's shown right here. And this is one of those parcels of land that was a component of a historic farm in Williston that was carved in half or in pieces by the highway when it was put in the 60s. So you see that some of these parcels, the ownership used to be, so this is also was a former Burnett, part of the Burnett farm. And it was contiguous with this at one time, and that's consistent with, if you look at kind of the history going down the highway, you have a number of those cases where farms got kind of separated in two. And in some instances that kind of resulted in a bit of a landlocked parcel that could no longer be farmed or no longer be sugared efficiently. And in this case, at some point that, I don't know all the history there, I haven't looked into it yet, but that parcel passed into town ownership. And because it's really a kind of a landlocked parcel, it has remained in town ownership, but it has not been tapped for any public use. So it's just there. I know there was 3 or 4 years ago, there was a UVM student who went out and took a look at it. for a bit of an ecological assessment. And noted that there's different wildlife use, and there's porcupine and coyote sign they found out there, and bear use as well. They noted that there was some trail activity there, and I believe there was during COVID, there was some kind of unsanctioned trail building that I think I read about, and that I think stopped at some point. So that parcel's been sitting there. And then enter Ben and Evan, who've been doing a little bit of research on could it be connected through easements to a portion of town that would allow for it to become a country park and have sanctioned public trails or sanctioned public access and so on. So that's a little bit of a preface, and yeah, back over to you.
No, that's great. That's helpful. I actually didn't know. I didn't know a lot of that. I'm wondering, did the UVM student, did they publish that report at all?
That's a good question. I believe, yeah, there was a story map made, that is linked
Yeah.
through the website, so you can find that. I don't know how many clicks you have to do to get there, but I think if you look at it'd be either in protected natural resources or yeah, I think in the natural resources tab, it might be in current projects or something like that, current conservation initiatives.
Oh, cool.
I think there's a link to this series of story maps that were made by the
Story
UVM
maps.
students, 2022.
2022,
Yeah,
okay.
and one of them,
Oh, I'll have to look that up, yeah.
Yeah, natural resources, current initiatives. And then on that current initiatives page, there's just a link in the text that says, go here to see the story maps that have been done by UVM students.
Totally. Yeah, that's great. That's cool. Well, would it be helpful if I gave the committee kind of just a sense of some folks that we've talked to, and a bit about just kind of where we are in the process?
Sure.
And it actually might be helpful to pull that map up.
Uh-oh.
Just for a second here.
this map,
Yeah, beautiful. Well, and we can, yeah, exactly. That Access GIS thing's actually really great.
we'll pull up the Access GIS.
No, this is fine. No, this is fine right here. Well, I guess before we can kind of get to, some of the stuff that we've been talking about, but the increasing demand for, multi-use, public parks, I think makes for a really interesting case for here in Williston. Certainly we have, Mud Pond, and there's Catamount, and some nice spaces. There isn't, as much for, the South Side neighborhoods, in terms of recreational opportunities. We hang out with, lots of, families, our age, kids and, and parents our age who are always really looking for more recreational opportunities in Williston. Oftentimes folks are going to Richmond, or they're going to, Bolton, or they're going to Heinsberg, and I think that there's just always a good opportunity to expand some of that access, here in Williston. And again, for kind of, multi-use, trail purposes, whether it be that biking or hiking or snowshoeing, in the winter. And so when Ev and I we're really intrigued by this, just because of, the proximity to for potential, parking as well as access, close access from the city center. And so kind of where we're at currently, and where we've been, thinking about this. By the way, I live right. My house.
About this.
What's that? Okay, so this is the Casani's. Oh yeah, okay. So I live right here. That's my house. Which is a cool little parcel of land. And so these folks right here, this is John and Kara Casani. They're great. I've talked to John a few times, who would be open to potentially considering kind of just an easement across his property. I don't think it would necessarily be, I don't know how official that would have to be in terms of an easement, but I think that he and Kara are both relatively open to having people right across the very bottom of their property to access the trails. Certainly the lot in question is this 50-acre lot, and I'm not sure what in terms of the VT trans, what that looks like in order to access the lot, but certainly we would need some trail access here. This is also a really great place for some, potentially some like, beginner bike trails or some easier hike trails in here, or a pump track or something like that for the kids. But this land, I'm not sure, has anybody been over there or walked this land or seen it?
I have not been to the parcel, no.
I couldn't figure out how to get in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite, and I've been there.
Obvious 5 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
When there was the illegal
Oh, yeah.
trails.
That I
And now
believe that
it's
some
open
employees from these.
It's kind of one of those, you close your eyes, you just keep walking through the brush. I've got in there now. But yeah, we could go walk it and kind of show where the entrance would make sense. And
It's a very sloped property, as with everything, right? Here. I think even more so than this property. I'm very familiar with this property, has a slope to it, but this is a pretty well sloped property for multi-use trails. And so again, these folks would be open to having a discussion around letting, folks, access, the property in question. I think that these folks, the landlords of these buildings, certainly the tenants of these buildings we have connected with and are, very interested and for employee health and benefits and all that kind of stuff. That'd be a wonderful benefit to the employees, but we haven't directly connected with the owners of the properties of those folks. So that's still outstanding. And then the last thing I'll say, and I'll kick it back over to Evan here, is I have connected with the Trues who live in Austin, Texas. They have this also landlocked property that's also it's 53 acres. And so part of what I hope we could consider, and I talked to them maybe a couple of years ago, and I was like, hey, like, we're trying to work with the town to see what it might be like to build some multi-use trails around, here. Would you be open to, having some trails on your property? Their response to that was, no, we're not really interested in that. I followed up maybe about a year ago or so and said, hey, like, what do you feel about maybe potentially selling, the land, back to the town or to another private owner? And they said, yes, we're very open to that. And if we were to do that, we were to connect the VT trans, this parcel, and then we were able to work out an agreement with the Trues, we would have, roughly 130 acre, community park for Williston residents to enjoy, which would be, I think, pretty spectacular. We have been talking with some folks at a trail building nonprofit called Fellowship of the Wheel. I'm not sure if you all are familiar with them.
We work with them at Mud Pond.
At Mud Pond, yeah, exactly, yeah. They do Mud Pond, Hemburn Sound Forest, Saxon Hill. They're great professional trail builders. And they've also expressed interest into helping out on this project, so we can actually work with Fellowship to develop those trails. Again, that would be multi-use, not just for biking, but multi-use trails. Evan, anything to add?
well, I just think from like a parking perspective, from an accessibility standpoint, we have the park and ride. I'm aware it's across 2A, there's a crosswalk. But from a parking perspective, either Williston residents, even Burlington residents, be able to take the bus and get to trails is a good opportunity.
And then there's street parking right here along
Street
street
parking.
right? And so I think parking is, we hope would not be an issue. And publicly accessible, whether through overflow or on the street here. I think eventually, if something were to move forward here, we might want to work with some folks, in either of these two properties to build like a dirt, lot and expand that parking out a little bit. It is a little ways, obviously Hurricane Lane's, a little ways, but.
Who uses Hurricane Lane for street parking now? Is it mostly employees or is there retail or shops there? I'm not really familiar with it.
Really know who because each.
Never seen it.
Yeah, but there is marked in paint lines, so I don't know who it's.
The parallel parking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see it on the map. It's,
Yeah.
But I'm not aware of shops there that parallel parkers would even.
They have a pretty big problem inside.
Yeah, there's no retail. You know,
That's interesting.
or anything. I think it's a great place for retail, yet it would be great to bring some more folks over here. And maybe, you know, have some more. Community attractions, you know, in a hurricane. I think this whole area has a lot of potential.
There's a hotel back there, if I'm not mistaken, right?
There's
Look,
two, I think there's
Very
two
cool hotel.
right here, and then is there two or is there
Yeah,
one?
there's a Marriott. Something,
Yeah.
yeah, halfway through, there's one
Yeah.
on the north side.
It's nice that now there's a bike path that goes right to Hurricane Lane.
Yeah.
Which is great, which means if we're to do this, something like this could
It's
be
very accessible.
accessible for the rest
For the
of.
growth center.
Exactly,
Mhm.
yeah, exactly. And you know, and again, you know, Evan and I are certainly excited, you know, to help out however we can. You know, I know that this is kind of just an initial discussion. That's why I kind of said soft proposal and curious for the committee's thoughts and potential next steps on, you know, if there is interest and how we might, you know, work together to tackle some of those next steps. We're happy to put in the time.
Are there existing trails there? You said you made access to that.
No, I didn't. That was before my time here, but I think there might have been some employees over here that during COVID were carving out some trails.
So just like rake
Yeah.
trails, yeah,
Rake trails.
yeah.
I walked it maybe 3 years ago to actually to Bradley Lane. We have some friends who great little spots we used to live in. Like at the end of Bradley Lane, we walked to their house 4 or 5 years ago, and we did not see any actually trails
Oh, so you walked all the way across to Bradley Lane. Interesting.
during COVID. There was a lot of time on our hands. Yeah, we did not see any trails.
Yeah, I think once. How I understand, I think the folks that were building the non-sanctioned trails, I think once they were found out that's operation ceased.
They were
Right.
pretty primitive too. They
Mhm.
were, it wasn't some, it was like, that's a trail, I guess that's a trail, it wasn't some.
Sure.
It was raked, as you said.
Yeah. So I guess, you know, what I'd be curious is to hear just initial, you know, thoughts from the committee, what kind of.
Yeah.
You know, interest there might be here. Also, you know, what haven't Evan and I thought of, you know, that we can help out on. And then, yeah, I mean, any potential next steps that come to mind.
Yeah, Bernie, did you want to jump in with a comment or anything, or are you mostly just interested in kind of hearing the direction the conversation went?
Well, I don't know how it would go with my piece. As it stands now, we get a lot of traffic and it's very hard to keep it at a low roar, which is, I guess, why I'm here.
Are you talking about foot traffic or?
All kinds, dirt bikes.
Okay, people coming
Mountain
across
bikes.
your land.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
And our property, my property is covered by maple tubing. Wall to wall.
Mhm.
Very difficult to deal with that
Yeah.
from where I sit. It really is.
Yeah.
And I don't see it getting better
Mm.
with this plan. Who's gonna police this? Who's gonna take care of that? We got a lot of issues with it now. I know my neighbor would be here too, perhaps he doesn't even know about it. So. You know, I don't know about any of this,
I'm curious to hear, Bernie, with the traffic that you're referring to, is that highway?
oh, no,
traffic?
no, this is foot, bike, and dirt bikes.
Are they coming, do you think, from Bradley Lane?
No, I think they're coming from the Burnett property, I think they're coming from the Porterwood property?
Yeah.
Okay, cause that butts right up to everything.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of traffic, there really is. And it's been an issue for a while. We try to handle it ourselves without getting the town involved and that's what we have been doing.
Mm.
Uh, and this is something that Williston needs more than it needs recreation. It needs agricultural. The land needs to be worked. I think that Williston has a fair amount of recreational property. I might be wrong. But I think the bottom line is I wouldn't think that my quality of life would get better.
Mm.
Sure. To the point where I may have to talk to David myself. If it's for sale,
Oh, Dave, true.
yeah,
Do you know them?
I have met them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you have?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And in fact, when he first bought it, he came to me and he said, do you know who's been using my property? And I said, no, I don't. He said, what do you mean? You've been here all these years and you don't know who it is? Well, David, I don't go over there. It's not my property. I know it gets used because I can hear it.
Hmm.
So,
So dirt bikes,
pardon me,
dirt bikes?
dirt bikes,
Yeah.
that's what we can hear.
Yeah.
But obviously there are other things. And as you say, the trails are primitive, but they are there. And they're there for those people. Those people have been using them right along and I could take you over there any weekend. And you will hear and see the bikes. So, I would actually consider buying the place and converting it over to maple.
Yeah, I was curious whether you talked to them ever about sugaring, but it seemed off topic.
Yeah. And I really enjoy what we do. And I think it's a badly needed thing in this town.
Yeah.
There's not enough of it.
Sugaring?
So agriculture, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, appreciate that. It's definitely, I can just speak from the town perspective, that's always kind of the balancing act that the town staff is kind of tasked with and I would say, we like to hear from the public on all kinds of different proposals and ideas, so there is no proposal right now to purchase that true land.
No.
That was an idea that was contained in this in this discussion, and certainly you are welcome to, that sort of private transaction that's your business.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, this is what I'm thinking about.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, what I would say is, being town land, at some point and being close to the development center, I think the town will periodically look at that land to see, if there is a future opportunity to make some use of it. I know that during the recreation department, master planning process, I think they may have looked at that as well and said, is there any future potential for getting access there? I think if the town were to do any official action there, then one benefit is that does give us the opportunity to try to help with those kinds of conflicts. So we can
Right.
post signage, we can make official trails where to gather people together. Generally on town managed recreation land, dirt bikes are not an approved use. It's not at any of our other places, and I don't necessarily see any argument that this place would be any different. So I will just say that is when the town does take any kind of official action on, you know, creating a country park, that comes with management planning process, public input, and just trying to hear all those different things that need to be balanced. You know, if there's neighbors that have agricultural operations, that needs to be respected. If there's an opportunity to try to manage inappropriate public access, then that can be a good thing. So I hear everything you're saying, and I'm glad that you came here to say it, so that can be on the table. Yeah, so thanks.
Yeah, I think it's helpful to understand the perspectives here, for sure. I guess I didn't realize that there was that activity back there. I've never seen it.
Yeah, and my neighbor to the other side is in the same thing. His property is wall to wall maple tulip. So that area is pretty well covered up with that. And he's fighting it constantly. Because Bradley Lane, which to get to our place is a class 4 town road, which you folks let us turn into a driveway. And that's how you get to our place. But that was a whole harangue. Our properties were those properties that were cut by the interstate. We were in the same boat as this property. And we put a lot into that road. I remember.
Oh, yeah, I mean, if you look at
We
the end of it,
we did everything, yeah, so. And the last I knew, the true property has a right of way. Or I don't know how it's written up, but I heard it was for logging purposes. Maybe that's all it can be used for. But that would be coming off of Nob Hill.
So I know that we're coming up on time here. I want to be respectful of your all's time. Curious if any other members of the committee have further thoughts. I'd also love to consider what you all might view as potential next step in moving conversation forward.
My thought is that we have a number of landlocked parcels that we do sort of actively talk about in discussion, including Brownell Mountain, which is just to the southeast of this location. There's also the Jacob Krantz property that is currently landlocked by a number of different landowners. So my initial reaction is thank you for flagging this one as sort of another in that jigsaw puzzle of multiple town-owned but inaccessible properties, because and I will say that as, you know, a sort of public access advocate myself, that is frustrating that we have all these potentially great places that we can take our kids, and we're always looking for ways to access them, right?
Yeah.
And that is something that this commission does spend a lot of time on. And so just from that point of view, thank you for bringing this idea forward as an opportunity for us to sort of add to the many and multiple layers of properties that the town has. And now I'm just waiting for the next one. Where is the next town land that I don't know we have property but no access to?
Sure.
So that's my initial reaction.
Sure. Yeah. I appreciate that.
yeah, we need to sit down, sit down and figure out next steps and which one actually makes the most sense to actually pursue of all our projects.
Yeah, so thank you for mentioning that, because we are in the long running agenda process of setting in a strategy for the use of our environmental reserve fund which may include land acquisition for things like easements or outright property acquisition. But that is a very complex and long-term project that sort of involves the select board and, you know, is not taken lightly.
Sure.
Yeah.
Is that the fund that we just put on a town meeting
It
day?
is
Yeah.
indeed.
Well, that's
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly what the fund is for. It is for whether it's easements or property acquisitions. And, you know, and it's a layer cake of a lot of sort of different things that we need to sort of think about.
Of course. Yeah, that makes sense.
I was just gonna share a couple of things that came to mind as I reviewed it. One is, I was trying to think of ways that it aligns or does not align with like the most recent town plan process. And what the public input was there, and, you know, some things that do align with having some sort of recreation access in this area is that. In multiple places in the town plan, it's called out that we need more equitable access and more equally distributed access to outdoor recreation spaces across town.
Yeah,
Certainly, we don't have a lot near this I-89 2A intersection. There are a couple, as part of the Taft Corners zoning district planning, there's a couple places that have been called out, like this is where a park should go, this is where a park should go, like at the water tower space, and there's some early activity to think about a park by Allen Brook School. Those are things that are the idea is like things that are walkable or bikeable from the growth center.
Mhm.
How do you create opportunities where people don't have to get in a car and go somewhere?
definitely, yeah.
So this kind of falls in that same category of things to consider, so just be aware that it'll be considered not just in terms of Conservation Commission, but even the planning department more broadly, thinking about like where parks eventually should be relative to any new housing that's going in. Another is that we recently redid our significant wildlife habitat area assessments, which look at kind of what areas should be prioritized for conservation for nature versus recreation and things like that. And so if we look at it from that lens, this area is considered an area that is somewhat valuable to be conserved for ecological purposes more than recreation. So it's something to keep in mind as well. It wasn't the highest class, but it was in like that mid-grade.
Oh, good time, yeah.
And you can find out more about that on the website as well. David can help direct you to those resources. That looks at forest cover, likely species use, all that kind of stuff. Grades, steep grades aren't going to be good for wildlife to traverse, but you know, things where wildlife can move across the landscape. And then finally, that there's in terms of creating and maintaining things, you weren't here for the earlier discussions, but we're regularly having this conversation about there's pressure to create more recreation infrastructure, and there's pressure on how to fund maintaining what we have. And so we are sort of in this weird state where I think 5 years ago, you know, Eric and others who have been on the commission for a while, but we would probably say the same, that, you know, 5 years ago, we were thinking, you know, we gotta add, especially during COVID when everybody was overusing our existing trail infrastructure. And some of that usage has maintained, but we realized, well, okay, it's costing us a significant amount to maintain what we have. And we're kind of in this balancing act now. It's like, well, we kind of want to add new trails, but we know we're already kind of struggling to keep up with the ones we've got. So how do we do this in a smart way? So those are the different things that came to mind as I read your research.
That makes sense,
But
yeah.
having this much insight into, you know, who you've talked to and, you know, what's happened there in terms of existing use and potential easements, all that stuff is really helpful, because as David said, if we look at multiple parcels, we can be like, all right, we actually have an idea of where this is and what it might look like if we decided to tease out the details.
Sure.
Right, we are at time and we need to talk about
Yes.
agendas, so we'll close this topic and
Thank you all.
guys for doing some legwork and
Thanks for
coming out.
Yeah, thanks all for
Nice to
coming.
meet you. Nice to meet
Yeah.
you all.
Yeah, meet you.
Thank you all so much, and we'll follow up.
Yeah, absolutely.
By email, what I'm curious about and kind of, and thinking about what those, in consideration for the rest of the parcels, like what that process looks like.
Yeah.
And when you all might be considering.
Keep an eye on our agenda. We'll be talking about it as
Yeah.
it progresses for sure.
Great.
Yeah, we still need another
Scott.
conservation commission member too.
Oh, yeah, there you
Oh, yeah, I
go.
could be interested.
Thank you, Bernie.
Yes,
Good to
Thank
meet
you.
Bye, Bernie.
Thank you.
nice to meet
Thanks,
you all.
Ben, Evan, yeah, good to see you.
Thank you.
Good call.
Plug, Laura.
Yeah, we need another commission. That's a good.
Be great to get a young person on here.
Yeah.
Hey,
What do you say? Hey, wait a minute.
another person like Eric, what do you say?
I'll roll it on this. Okay, all right, so future agenda planning, we have an abundance of agenda topics. I would like to get back to ERF prioritization, because it's been a little bit. But first off, let's just check availability. I know Eric's got a bit of news. I have news too, is I'll be starting the new job on the 3rd.
Nice.
So this is my last week of work as well. Still made it out on Monday. But in all seriousness, I don't know what the week of the 3rd is gonna bring for me. I'm planning to be here, but I have no idea like what my schedule is gonna be like. So I would put me down as tentative on August 5th. And really the rest of the month, I have no idea what by August.
Yeah, at the moment, I'm expecting to be able to make, the August meetings, 5th and 19th. I was gonna say that with my new job, I actually will have a lot more flexibility, so I'm hoping to be able to, participate and engage a lot more than I have been over the last year or two.
Maybe some more scones in that future.
Just maybe some more.
Let's get scones in.
Scones, yeah, maybe I get back to.
Wait, did you get a job at Mirabelle's or you homemade scone?
Homemade scones, but I will be
Small business.
They're out there.
working from home now as opposed to
Jeez.
commuting.
Okay,
to
great.
Grand Isle, so.
I mean, I will say that is I'll be working I'll be working nationally, but I'll be working at home. So I'm not going into Burlington every day, which would make this very hard. So I will say, same boat. Okay, who's on vacation in August?
I'm around.
Everyone's around? Okay, so sounds like we have a strong potential to have both meetings then in August. We did take a break in June anyways, so we might be able to take 2 full agenda topics or 2 full days in August, 5th and 19th as scheduled.
So either the 5th or the 19th, my preference is probably for the 19th at this point. The discretionary permit filing for the Brownell parcel will come back to you.
Okay,
But that's the only development review I'm aware of.
What about the Marcotte?
Yeah.
What's the trajectory for that one?
do we have an executive session in our future?
So we can definitely schedule one. In terms of, Marcotte, conservation project, there's likely an executive session on August 18th. For the select board.
Okay.
Which would be the first opportunity for staff to kind of. Update the select board
Okay.
on this potential project. Share the initial comments and ideas from the Conservation Commission
Okay,
that we've talked about.
but we don't need to revisit that based on our site visit or anything like that.
No, I mean, I think the change in land layout is something to discuss, so that could be. If anyone after seeing that,
Like the sites, the home sites?
the map that John showed at the visit.
Yeah, that's different than what we
Is
looked
different than what we looked at, includes an extra 30 acres.
I did not appreciate that difference, okay, so that's to accommodate the Beartown Road.
That's to, so the town would not need an easement to Beartown Lane, but would own that whole section of land as well.
Okay,
So that could be something to discuss and kind of like, does that change the picture at all for the Conservation Commission? But yeah, that's kind of what's coming up. The next thing that would be coming up would be funding grant applications. So there's an August application for Lake Champlain Basin Program funding. There's September kicks off the next cycle of Land and Water Conservation Fund federal funding. So there are some opportunities coming up which we could use to apply for match funding, which seem like they would fit within this cycle. Right, the Marcotts, having received their discretionary permit approval in May, I think it was early May, they have a year from that, and then potential for 6-month extension. But their goal, they are hoping that they'll be able to start marketing lots next spring. So we could potentially be hearing from funders if we win a grant in February to March, something along those lines. I have to look a little bit closer at timelines for those grants, but I know that's around when we hear pre-grant award news for Land and Water Conservation Fund, where it is. So yeah, that's kind of next steps that are in the shuffle. So a lot of work to be done there, but in terms of Conservation Commission, I'd say our initial conversations have kind of given me a good read on how the commission feels about this project, with the possible exception of if you want to talk about that change in configuration.
Yeah, my initial reaction to seeing his map was, no, it doesn't really change anything, whether it's an easement or whether the town owns the land. It's kind of the same access point that we discussed, so.
We don't have to pay extra for the easement, which is helpful, but.
Well, we wouldn't have to pay
We would-
extra
we would
for
have conditioned.
the easement. Yeah, it would be condition approval. We would have to pay extra for the acreage.
Got it.
They would be raising the
Okay.
price.
But we also would have more flexibility because we no longer would be kind of negotiating where to put the trail within the easement, we would own the land and could choose where to put it.
Yep.
So, yeah, different considerations.
Okay. Go ahead.
What other topics just to consider? One is, I know we started the conversation about volunteer policy and how that dovetails with conservation programming. I know, David, you are helping us coordinate time to the subcommittee to meet with Aaron. So there may be at one of the next 2 meetings, there may be an opportunity to sort of debrief on where do we stand and what, if anything, do we want to put forward? Do we want to put forward a memo to the select board about kind of how we'd like to see volunteering structured to support our programming?
So the next draft of that memo will be ready by the 5th potentially? Is that-
I don't get that sense. I think we're gonna meet with Aaron. Is there a specific date range?
Yeah, I think I sent that email.
You did, I definitely read it, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, so Eric is away right now.
That's what she wanted to wait till Eric got back.
Yeah, and so for the next 2 weeks, so Aaron has
Yeah.
a lot on her plate per usual, but extra. So the next 2 weeks would be tough for her, so we're looking at the last week of July, I think. It's 20, yeah, the week of the 27th for a meeting with the subcommittee and myself to.
Just felt like to turn around from that date and have a new draft ready and distributed for review and everything would be too fast for the 5th. So it seemed more likely for the 19th.
Or the 2nd, if you're not meeting with her until the week of the 20th. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, or it could be till, well, no, we're meeting last week of July, right? You're talking about?
Yeah, last week of July.
Last week of July.
The 5th of August might.
Oh, yeah, okay,
But the
okay,
19th
cool.
might be about.
So then let's do ERF prioritization on the 5th and the memo on the.
I mean, well, what I would say is, I think, it's, volunteer policy is supposed to go back to the select board on
When?
August 18th.
Oh.
So,
okay, so never
The
mind.
5th would probably be the best opportunity, if the subcommittee feels like you wanna bring stuff
Okay.
back to the larger.
Yeah, I
committee,
wasn't aware of that
that'd
timing.
probably be the best.
Okay.
Okay, so then never mind the 5th for volunteer policy.
I mean, I think,
Back that one.
given the fact that we're in the middle of a discussion about the Marcotte, I don't know that we need a ERF prioritization immediately. Go ahead.
Yeah, and just on sometime in August, a quick review of the money approved for the Vermont Master Naturalist training that's starting, and by that time, I'll know how many people from Williston are in that.
Cool.
Do you feel like the 5th or the 19th, either one's a better fit for that?
I think the 19th.
Great.
Is our trail steward gonna still be around in August?
Yes,
And are they scheduled through September?
Isaac will be wrapping up at the end of August. I can't recall. It might be the very end of August. Either that or the first week of September.
It might be interesting to bring him in and get some sort of insight from him to share with the commissioners about like the state of our property and just to have a conversation with them. And
Yeah, that's a good idea.
invite him in maybe on the 19th with some house cones.
Yeah, the grant. One more thing on the grant funding, not just related to Marcot, potentially applying for grants related to that, but also, I know that like. There's other things we typically have done on an annual basis, like we've worked with the Intervale. To use some of their grant funded time on the Allen Brook. And kind of any other grant opportunities for like fall planting and or invasive removal grants might be good, because I know we're a little light on invasives budget. This year, so if there are any grants available.
Okay. Well, there's never a shortage.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. But we're at time. So let's call it a meeting. We'll adjourn. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Good luck to both of you in your.
Thank you.
Yeah.